Well, good morning, and thanks for joining us in this time of devotion. This is a great way to start any day. Today, I want to walk into a passage that I recently read during a time of devotion, and a verse that caught my attention out of Mark chapter 15. The verse is from Mark 15:15, and simply says, "So to pacify the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them." It's a simple little verse, but it caught my attention here. This references an event where Pilate released Jesus to the Jews to be crucified and released Barabbas to be free. It's an event that was so significant, it's actually listed in every one of the gospel accounts. Here in Mark 15, it's also listed in Matthew chapter 27, in Luke 23, and in John chapters 18 and 19. Now the players here, if you just observe the passage that's around it and what's going on here, there's three significant players here. One is Pilate. Now, Pilate is the ruling authority of the time. He's the one in charge and making decisions. Two, you have Jesus, and Jesus is being identified here as the King of the Jews. And then third, you have this Jewish crowd, and these are people who are out for blood here, right? They want Jesus, and they want to take him, and they want to crucify him. Now, in every gospel account, there's a few things that become clear. It's clear here in Mark 15, and it's also clear in other accounts of what happened there. And I want to unpack a couple things that become abundantly clear, really looking at this from Pilate's perspective, thinking through his lenses. One thing that's clear is that he identified Jesus as the King of the Jews. Right? He understood who Jesus was claiming to be. Jesus claimed to be the King of the Jews, to be one with the Father, to be God incarnate in the flesh. Those things were understood at this time. Right? It's part of why the Jews were out for blood there, was because they thought what he was saying was blasphemy. But Pilate understood this claim. Now, following a religious leader in general, whether it's someone here at the church, someone in your life, following a religious leader is all good until they start to claim to be God. Right? That claim becomes a game changer because a couple things have to be true when that claim becomes understood. That someone's actually saying, I'm not just a religious leader, but I'm claiming to be God. Well, one possibility here is they're not God, but they think they are. Well, that would just make him crazy, right? He would be a lunatic in that mind. If he thinks he's God, but he's actually not God, well, that's not someone worth following. And yet, Jesus didn't come across as crazy in what he taught and how he interacted and who he was. So another possibility is maybe he's not God. He knows he's not God, but he's still claiming to be. Well, that would make him a liar. That would just make him categorically false and untrue. And yet that doesn't resonate with who Jesus was either. The other possibility there is maybe he is who he said he is. Maybe he is God. Maybe he is Lord. Maybe he is Savior and Messiah and worth following here. Now, Pilate looked at him and said, this is the King of the Jews. My question to you today is thinking about that. Who do you say that Jesus is? Have you come to that point in your life of asking, who do I think Jesus is? I don't know. The whole world has different thoughts about who he is and has over the course of history, but who do I say that he is? Who do you say that he is? It's a significant decision that you'll come to at some point is to determine, who do I believe Jesus really is? Now, going back to Pilate in the story here, Pilate identified him as the King of the Jews, and yet at the same time, he saw this bloodlust on the part of the Jews, and it confused him. He didn't understand it because when he got in front of Jesus, when he interviewed him and talked with him, it became very clear very quickly that he didn't think that Jesus was worthy of death. I don't think he knew exactly what Jesus was actually even doing in front of him, but he certainly didn't think he had done anything worthy of death. And yet, he had the crowds around him shouting, "Crucify him." And what Pilate did in that moment was he chose to do what was right to the crowd rather than what was right to his conscience. When you think about that today for you, when have you done what's easy instead of what's right? We've all been in that kind of moment before where we go, I know this seems like the right path to do, the right decision to make, the right action to take. I know that this is the thing I should do at work or the thing I should say to this friend, or the way that I should lead my family, and yet that just seems difficult. It seems like there's cost involved there, and so I'm not going to do that thing. I'm actually going to do the thing that's easy instead. To pacify the crowds, Pilate released Barabbas to them to free, as opposed to Jesus. You look at the other gospel accounts here, it brings this into focus, just this tension that Pilate had and the decision that he made. In Matthew 27, it said Pilate saw he wasn't getting anywhere and that a riot was developing among the people. And so Pilate released Barabbas to them to free. Or in Luke 23, Pilate's arguing with the crowds because it actually says in Luke 23:20, Pilate wanted to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." And for the third time, he demanded, "Why?" Pilate's saying, "Why? What crime has he committed? I've found no reason to sentence him to death. So I'll have him flogged and then I'll release him." But the mob shouted louder and louder, demanding that Jesus be crucified. And it says the voices prevailed. So Pilate sentenced Jesus to die as they demanded. And as they had requested, he released Barabbas, the man in prison for the insurrection and murder. But he turned Jesus over to them to do as they wish. I don't know what's going on in your world and what's going on in your life today. I don't know how your year has been or what you're looking forward to as you look into the holidays, but I want to say this to you today. There are two defining decisions that you will make in life that will dictate all the rest of your days from here on out and will color the way that you look at where you've been as well. One of those decisions today is to decide, who is Jesus? Who do you say that he is? And the second decision is, will you follow the master or will you follow the masses? Will you follow his leading in your life and surrender your life to him and walk in his ways and walk as he taught? Or will you walk in ways that are pleasing to all the people who are around you? As you make those two decisions today, those are decisions that will impact all of your tomorrows. And I pray that today you make some decisions by faith. And maybe it's a reaffirmation of those decisions if you've already made them, and just a doubling down and saying, I am all in. Or if you've never made that decision before, maybe today is the day to say, I don't believe that Jesus was a liar. I don't believe that he was a lunatic, but I want to receive him as my Lord and Savior today. And I'm not going to just follow the masses. I'm not just going to live for what everybody else around me is thinking and saying and doing, but I want to live in the way that I was designed to live, looking to Jesus as the one who is saving me from hell, who's going to walk me on into heaven, and who's going to empower me to live a little bit of heaven here on earth. As we follow him and as we trust him, his kingdom come and his will be done here on earth, just as it is in heaven. Let me pray for you today. Lord, I just thank you for the person that's watching this, for this day you've given us, for the breath that you've set in our lungs, and for what's going on. And I affirm today, Lord, that if I'm still breathing, if I'm not dead, then you're not done. You still have good things that you're doing in me and through me. And even if today is a day that is a day of struggle, even if today is a moment where I'm just feeling the weight of decisions or the weight of the world around me, Lord, I pray that the light and the life of Christ would be very real and tangible in the life of the person that's watching here today. Lord, I pray that you would empower them to live as you've called them to live. Help them to experience the hope of heaven here and now today in a way that would anchor them, that would fuel them, would encourage them to live out today in a way that's honoring and glorifying to you. Lord, go before us into all that's ahead. Give us wisdom where we lack it. Give us strength where we feel weak. Help us to be courageous in those moments where we feel doubt. And Lord, bless us today. Help us to walk in the blessing that you have given so graciously to us. I pray that in